Okay, welcome to our presentation called the Multiplier Method, where we talk about the shift from an organic growth model to a scalable growth model. I'm excited about this topic. This is our wheelhouse at Pareto Systems. We talk about this extensively in our coaching and consulting, as well as our books and resources. This is the full shift from having a book of business to having an actual business and running that business like a business. This is what separates the talkers from the doers. And this is where you take the business that you have, which might be the proverbial little engine that could, just chugging along nicely, to a full-scale, thriving enterprise that has immense enterprise value. So with that, let's shift to the next slide. I want to tell you two quick stories around the dynamic of incremental growth leading to an inflection point. We have a very good client team in Dallas, Texas, and led by just the embodiment of professionalism, an advisor who'd been in the business for a while, embraced best practices, standard operating procedures, started as a lifelong planner looking down the road. His son got involved in the business, and he empowered and positioned his son to wear many hats, including COO, again, taking the client experience to another level, fully building out their continuity and succession plan, all the way to a complete proof of concept. And then they acquired their first business in January of 2020. Now, you might recall there was a little bit of a disruption in the early part of 2020. Some might call it a force majeure. But they acquired that business. And then because of the disruption, they proceeded to onboard the clients from that advisor who was riding off into the sunset. They onboarded and transitioned all of those clients virtually. And because of their complete commitment to best practices, if I remember the math correctly, they took an $80 million AUM business, and when the dust settled, it was now a $100 million business, unlocking all kinds of dormant seeds and a vein of gold of untapped opportunity within that business. And just as importantly, the departing advisor was so incredibly impressed and validated that his legacy was secure and his clients were in good hands, that he himself became a client, and that became part of the positioning as clients were transitioned into that new environment. Textbook. My favorite story, though, is a very professional, financial professional in La Jolla, California. I've known him for a long time. Just a great guy. He, too, brought his son into the business, expanded his bench, and found another gear when it came to consistency in the client experience. Again, standard operating procedures, best practices. Just something to behold, to a point where another advisor in his branch, who was sort of watching from a distance, approached our client and said, "I've been watching you evolve. I'm getting ready to retire. I would like you to take on my clients." And our advisor, our client, said, "Wow, that's a tremendous honor. Thank you very much. We should probably talk about economics." And the departing advisor said, "There will be no economics. I'm set for life. This industry has treated me incredibly well. I have more than I need. My number one concern is to make sure my clients are in good hands." Now, of course, that is an outlier. Wouldn't be surprised to see it happen again. But that's the beauty of the multiplier method. Just making this shift and leading to that inflection point. Okay, so that's all fine and good. Let's go to the next slide. Undoubtedly, at a minimum, you've heard of the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Perhaps you read that book and you know that habit number 2 is to begin with the end in mind. So from a business professional perspective, every business should be built to last. Every business should be built to scale. And every business should be built to be sold. Now, what makes a business valuable, especially in the fee-for-service, knowledge-for-profit space? Well, of course, now that you're advisory, your recurring revenue, your EBITDA, and just how clean your business is and how predictable and sustainable your business is. But this is what adds a kicker, is demonstrating plateau avoidance. Every investment of effort you make working on your business contributes to your enterprise value. It is one of the most dynamic forms of forced savings. You are not transacting, you are delaying gratification, but you are, in essence, paying yourself first for your end game, for your liquidity event based on enterprise value. That is, in my view, profound future pacing. So let's go to the next slide and let's get more granular around this concept called the force multiplier. This is where incremental compounding culminates to what we call convergence. Now, in your mind's eye, think of the word convergence or look at it on the slide. Within that word is a word, on. You're working on your business, contributing to convergence. Convergence is this accretive synchronicity where everything starts to come together. Now, from the context of the shift from organic to scale, this is where you blossom beyond being that 20-year overnight success story. This is the epitome of success being happening gradually and then suddenly. And by suddenly, I mean you become franchise ready and you develop these multiple income streams. Now, look at this Venn diagram. Okay, so when you started off in the business, you focused on your knowledge. That was a big part of your technical ability, your core competency. It gave you professional contrast. But you were probably fixating mostly on products, pricing, and performance. And you created loyalty, you created total client engagement, you created referability. That's fantastic, but you might have been somewhat transactional. And when you're transactional, that's, again, like pumping up a leaky tire. It's like putting sand in a shopping cart, okay? You're not really building something. You have an income. You have a job. It's fine. Then you move to the next progression where you expand your thinking around expertise. This is where you develop mileage and reputational equity, thought leadership. You start adding depth and breadth. You start shifting from products, pricing, and performance to having clients really appreciate your people, your practice, and your process. You become more directional. And of course, this amplifies not just advocacy in the form of introductions and empowerment, but also fee worthiness. Now you're on the next frontier. This is intellectual property. IP that creates that inflection point is brought to life through an ongoing panoramic approach to intellectual property as a knowledge-for-profit professional, which means nothing resides in anyone's head exclusively. Everything is out of your head. Now, as the lead advisor, You subscribe to the entrepreneurial paradox, which says you're truly on the verge of greatness when you've made yourself obsolete. The moment your business can run like a Swiss watch without you having to be present, and that business can still be productive, that's when you're on the verge of greatness. When the business serves your life, not the other way around, you land in this spot of balance where you do no harm, but you take no crap. Okay? You completely shed yourself from anything that causes you grief, and you build a business on your terms. This is the power of IP. Now, your approach to asset management is process-driven, but not necessarily proprietary. The key here is to place as much importance on practice management and relationship management as you do on your technical ability around asset management. Practice management and relationship management is proprietary. It's yours. So you want to ensure that your people, you and your team, have gotten everything out of your head. And I'll talk a little bit more about that around the rule of three. You've probably heard me talk about that before. When you get everything out of your head around the things that you do 3 or more times that have 3 or more steps, and you organize them, you optimize those strategies and best practices, this is where IP starts to take root. Okay, but hold on a second. Let's go to the next slide. You're at a really important fork in the road, and you're probably doing some scenario planning right now around what's next for you. Know thyself. That's Temet Noske. Know thyself. Are you predisposed more to contentment or ambition? You currently have a B2C enterprise, business to client, organic growth. And maybe that is enough. And maybe the next level of fulfillment for you comes from growing down your client count, growing up market to more complex needs, taking more time off, pursuing other interests, maybe taking a sabbatical, maybe going out and writing the great American novel or traveling the world. Maybe that's enough for you, and that's perfectly fine. But just break from the status quo. There are a lot of people who have been riding and kind of coasting on this seemingly perpetual bull market, and that safety net has become a bit of a hammock of complacency. A lot of people who are content are light or modest when it comes to ambition. But on the other side of the equation, a lot of people who are ambitious, they are perpetually ambitious and never content. You want to find that sweet spot where you're happy with what you have as you aspire to what you want. But if it's go time for you to take your proof of concept and scale it out, now you have 2 addressable audiences. You have your legacy organic clients, and you have a B2B opportunity where other advisors can now gravitate towards you. And I'll tell you something, the moment you prove that your business is scalable, your enterprise value, at a minimum, you add 1x to your core business, and in many cases, many more than that. If you can show the trajectory, the proverbial hockey stick, where you've acquired a business, you've attracted an advisor to adopt and draft in behind your process, and it's repeatable, the value of your life's work goes through the roof. Okay, so where do our clients start? Again, this is our wheelhouse. We spent, our coaching staff, this is a big part of what we do on a daily basis, is helping advisors scale. Where do we start? That's the next slide. Again, proof of concept. How do we round out your proof of concept to make you franchise ready and scalable? This is the initial placeholder. Okay, so I mentioned the rule of three. Anything you do 3 or more times that has 3 or more steps has got to be documented, organized, standardized, professionalized, optimized. And this is your 4 quadrants to get this started. Virtually every advisor we work with has at a minimum 6 to 8 gaps that we can address in the next 3 to 4 months. I'm like a broken record. This is where you start. This demystifies and just gives you specificity to make meaningful and measurable progress in a reasonable period of time. So let's break these down quickly. We've got resources. You can go deeper into this if you see the merit. Your on-site fit process. You've met with how many? Countless, hundreds of prospective clients over the years. How many steps are in your fit process? I'm sure you've evolved fully from a sales encounter, meaning you don't try to convince someone to become a client. Ideally, they convince you. They tell you, look, I want to become your client. How many steps are in your fit process? Is it all built out? If you've got 11 steps in your fit process, is it fully laid out, streamlined, literally to the point where you could say to somebody, this is our way? Now think about this. This is not just for new organic prospective clients that you meet. If you acquire a business, you and your team are going to meet with those clients and do a fit process to make sure that they feel like they're opting in and getting an upgrade as they move from their former environment. If you're acquiring a business from somebody who's bowing out, either retiring or just have had enough, there's no assumption that these are acquired clients. You want to do a fit process because there might be some people in there that are not a good fit. Either they decide that or you decide that, but that's how you start a relationship. And here's the third win. Once you build out your fit process, you can go back to your existing organic clients and demystify for them what it looks like when you engage with somebody that they introduce to you. Let alone a client, how about an accountant or an attorney? Just simply say that we've raised the bar. This is what it looks like. If you ever introduce someone to us, this is what they can expect. This is what they will experience. This is our fit process. You make yourself more referable. There's 3 benefits to fully building out your on-site fit process. The same holds true with your onboarding process. Now, you've onboarded hundreds of clients over the years. Where does all that live? Is it fully built out? Could you hand your onboarding process to a temp and say, this is how we onboard a client? These are our sequence of steps. There's 14 steps in our onboarding process to transition a client from a former environment to ours and fast track them to advocate status. Now, of course, that's for new clients, but if you attract an advisor to adopt and draft in behind your process, you're going to onboard those clients. If you acquire a business, even a partial book sale, you're going to onboard those clients. And you want them to simply say, wow, this is so incredible. The bar has been raised. And you might also, as a third win, go back to your existing clients and reframe and reintroduce yourself to those clients to counter amnesia and loyalty fatigue and to rejuvenate their appreciation for your value. How many steps are in your onboarding process? Is it fully built out? Is it in your playbook? Then there's your service model. We talk a lot about future pacing. As a planner, getting a client to understand where the relationship's going. Your service model is what competitor-proofs clients, gets out in front of money in motion, and makes you more referable. How built out is your service model? Do you have at a minimum, 12-4-2? Is it all laid out? Is it all tied to your client classification based on how you've segmented your clients based on AAA, AA, single A, or needs, values, goals, whatever your client classification is? And if you were to hire a temp, could you simply say, okay, our AAA clients, this is their client experience. We've got client service, we've got client experience, the world stops. This is how we conduct ourselves. Again, this is part of the reframing. This is part of the Onboarding. When you acquire a business and you've onboarded the client, then you say to them, look, this is what you can expect from us. This is our client experience. These are your days. You're elevating. And then, of course, there's onwards. That's your culture. I mean, you wear a lot of hats today, right? I mean, the bedside manner, clients bare their souls. They tell you about their wins. They tell you about the things that keep them up at night. They tell you about their setbacks. How do you respond to that? This is your culture. This is, again, what it means to be your client. Critical life events, moments of truth, milestones. But remember, 3 addressable audiences: new clients, existing clients, and newly acquired, or those who adopt and embrace your approach. I'm covering a lot of ground here. This is the backbone of our coaching and consulting service. If you don't want to reinvent this wheel, you should maybe consider scheduling a call with us to get into the weeds on this, to understand how you can put yourself in the red zone and fast track yourself to adopting this. But let's go to the next slide. Let's go deeper into the proof of concept. That always on template and those 4 quadrants, as I said, are a placeholder to kickstart your team in getting very granular on gaps and making you franchise ready. It's all got to go somewhere. This is the next slide around organization and structure. Again, it's not an intellectual property if these are in your head. If it's in someone's head, it's a skill. It's an intention. The moment it's documented and organized, now it's IP. Okay, so big part of that is to have an org chart of roles and responsibilities. And, you know, we've got all these tools, but you can even go on to ChatGPT and just say, I'm a financial advisor with 5 people on my team. Create an org chart of roles and responsibilities. 5 seconds, you'll have something. And by the way, a little plug for us, we're adding AI into our Pareto Academy to make it streamlined, searchable, and deployable. But more on that later. Okay? Org chart, roles and responsibilities. This is the tip of the spear in running a business like a business. But then, based on the rule of 3, you've got to capture all of your best practices and organize them in your playbook. This makes you franchise ready if it's digitized and if it's physically, literally organized within a binder. I want you to imagine meeting with a potential advisor who's thinking about selling his or her business, and they're vetting others. And you say to them, hey, I want you to really understand what your clients can experience and expect from us. And you pull down your playbook and say, this is our way. This is our procedures manual. Everything is organized. Nothing falls through the cracks. You can be rest assured your clients are going to be in good hands. And you hand it to them. And just by virtue of its weight, it's impressive. But then they open it up and they see your fit process, your onboarding process, your service model, your org chart of roles and responsibilities. It's very, very impressive. Okay, but let's now go granular. And again, of course, I don't know the current structure of your team. You might have you and an associate or a client assistant. You might have 3 people. You might have 5 people. You might have 15 people who are all working on your organic B2C business, and you're maybe dabbling in the B2B, or you've dipped your toe in that water already. Let's talk about deeper team engagement. And just, this is absolutely critical. First of all, from a strategic planning perspective, I would highly encourage you to master the art of mind mapping. This exercise is so powerful to crystallize your thoughts and get things out of your head and give them order, to help you create a picture and a mosaic of what you're trying to accomplish. Mind mapping, number 1. Number 2, your playbook. Very, very key. And just so you know, You can have 80% of your playbook done in the next 90 days if you'll embrace Tuckman's model. Okay, so Tuckman's model has been around since 1965, ironclad, absolutely not on trial. The 4 key components of Tuckman's model: forming. Okay, forming is just giving order to your team dynamics. This is a big part of what we do when we go deep with a team. Forming the team and just giving it organization and structure. Just go through the exercise. By the way, there are some phenomenal videos on YouTube around Tuckman's model. Just embrace. This is entrepreneurship at the next level. Forming the team, giving order and structure. Storming. Okay, this is where the playbook comes to life. Do you realize that in the next 90 days, you and your team will engage in real time in virtually all of your best practices as they're happening? Like literally in the next 90 days, you are going to receive a referral and you're going to take a prospective client through your fit process, through your onboarding process in the next 90 days at a minimum. Get you and your team, as those steps are happening, to document them in progression, methodically, as they happen. That's what storming is. Obviously, over the course of the 90 days, you're going to engage in client service and client experience. The way you react and the way you schedule your client experience will be deployed over the course of the next 90 days. You'll do a call rotation. You'll probably send out Thanksgiving cards and birthday cards. Now, again, it's not an intention. It's not just an idea. Get your team to document it. This is storming. Norming is once a week, like literally every Friday at 2 p.m., each member of your team is bringing everything that they've done that week, that they've gotten out of their heads and documented, to a meeting of 1 hour, and it's being organized. There's a quarterback on your team who's taking all of these tasks and giving them order in your proprietary playbook. And then performing. Remember, every business is built to last, scale, and be sold. Know your KPIs that are both quantitative and qualitative. Measure everything. It's hard to manage something, right, that you can't measure. You've heard variations of that expression. Know your KPIs that are quantitative around quality of the referral. Qualitative, based on feedback that your clients give. When you ask them how they feel about being your client, like just anything qualitative, anything quantitative, know your KPIs. Those are the 4 key components of Tuckman's model that you can bring to life in the next 90 days. And then at some point in that journey, you're going to activate the 5th step. So you have forming, storming, norming, and performing, and then there's adjourning. Over the course of the next 90 days, you are going to decide what things you're going to let go of. Certain clients that are not a good fit, you may respectfully disassociate from. You may grow down your organic business to create more consistency and professional scarcity. There might be some team members that aren't buying in, and it's just run its course. There might be some things that you're doing. You might have been doing some advertising or doing some seminars or doing some other activities that are just no longer viable, sustainable, or applicable to your business. You're going to let go from some of these. This is a phenomenal exercise to prepare you to attract advisors to adopt and deploy your process, so that they're not left to their own devices to wing it. Then you go to the next level. If you're going to build out your bench strength and actually entertain the idea of hiring more people onto your team and meet with advisors and possibly even buy a business, acquire a business or a partial book sale, and transition those clients to your environment, onboard them and elevate them in the spirit of advocacy and total client engagement. That's the next slide. This is our very simple framework. It's called PSP. Every single person from this day forward, I would encourage you to apply a philosophical, strategic, and practical fit process with. Philosophical is just overall compatibility. Mindset. Do you see the world the same way philosophically? Some people are more predisposed to salesmanship. They're hunter-gatherers. They eat what they kill. That might not be a good fit. And maybe that tiger's not going to change its stripes. A big part of the philosophical fit and compatibility is a variation on the rule of three. This one means 3 people on your team meet any potential addition to your staff and your bench or any potential acquired business. 3 people each have a meeting. So 3 separate meetings in 3 separate settings. See how these people interact with service staff in a restaurant. See if they are trying to maintain a facade over 3 meetings or if they're just purely authentic. That's your rule of 3 for philosophical fit. Strategic. How does the client benefit? How do your clients benefit through the addition of this person? How do the clients of a business you're about to buy benefit from coming over? Are you completely in sync? And then lastly, everything cascades down to the conversation about economics. Okay? Don't lead with numbers. Don't lead with the money. How you start a relationship like this on a B2B basis should be philosophical, harmony, strategic, lift for clients, all clients involved, and then it just makes sense from a economic perspective. But let me recap this, okay? Again, this is the progression. In your weekly team meetings, scheduled meetings, master the art of mind mapping for scenario and strategic planning. Buy into the concept of order and structure with an org chart and a playbook, and buy into that 90-day runway. Buy into Tuckman's model, forming, storming, norming, and performing, and then potentially adjourning, and then PSP. That framework is, along with the always-on gap approach, can propel you to franchise readiness very, very quickly without letting things fall through the cracks and without reinventing the wheel. Okay, I just love talking about this. This is our wheelhouse. 50% of the clients, plus or minus, hire us, not just to grow methodically their organic business, but to position themselves for that pivot to franchise readiness and B2B scalability without adding hassle factor and HR issues, and always keeping their eye on the prize to the end game around enterprise value. This is your life's work. Maximize it from the standpoint of your sense of purpose, your personal fulfillment, and your ability to look back on this and say, I took this as far as I could and I did no harm. I brought value to every single person I touched. Again, I had a mentor who said to me, the goal in life is not just to make a profit, it's to leave a profit. It's not just what you earn, it's who you become and what it makes of you to self-actualize. If this resonates and you're wanting to scale, book a strategy call with us. Don't reinvent the wheel. Fast track yourself. You see the QR code. I love talking about this. We would love to help you position yourself to take advantage of all of the benefits that come from this exercise. And I will say one last thing. it would appear that we're heading into a period of volatility and uncertainty and noise. Remember something. This is where you win. This environment is what separates the best from the rest. When things are rocking along, I mean, you know the expression, right? Even turkeys can fly in a strong wind. This is your bull market. When things become a little bit uncertain, a little bit turbulent, this is where you stand out from the pack and you position yourself to attract all kinds of opportunity and get to that inflection point, assuming you have the mindset of intellectual property. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this was helpful, validating, reinforcing, or opened your eyes a little bit. Feel free to schedule a call with us if you want to talk about this further. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.